Well, welcome everyone. Welcome. It's really great to have everyone here once again. I'm Jan Jeremias, one of your hosts today. I'm an integrative health and wellness coach and author who works with people and their pets to empower them to overcome health challenges and live healthier lives. And very excited to be joined again on stage with my co-host, collaborator, and dear friend, the amazing and very kind Mary Jane McQueen. So, Mary Jane, share.
Thank you, Jan. Yeah, and as always, I'm always honored to be here with all of you, and of course with Jan, who, as I know, I think I love. It reminds me, so I love to say that she inspires me every day to shine brightly, um, just as she does. I really am happy to be here. And I know most of you probably know me, but for the sake of the recording, I am Mary Jane, or MJ as I'm known in some circles. And I'm the founder of MJ McQueen Creative Studio. And I help entrepreneurs step into their light and share their gifts authentically by helping them to create visuals that align with their mission because my mission is to help them to reconnect to their true selves and so that they're able to better connect deeply with others. And welcome. Today we're excited for the conversation.
So, Mary Jane, do we want to share the poem first or do we want to open first? I just really
Uh,
think that,
whichever. Would you like me to read the poem first?
yeah, I realized
It's okay. Not a problem. I can adapt. I can pivot. I'm good. Um, so yeah, the poem that I wanted to share with you today is called What Life Should Be, and it's by Pat A. Fleming. And the poem is this: To learn while still a child what this life is meant to be, to know it goes beyond myself. It's so much more than me. To overcoming the tragedies, to survive the hardest times, to face those moments filled with pain and still manage to be kind, to fight for those who can't themselves, and to always share my light with those who wander in the dark, to love with all my might, to still stand up with courage, though standing on my own, to still get up and face each day, even when I feel alone, to try to understand the ones that no one cares to know and make them feel some value when the world has let them go, to be an anchor, strong and true, that person loyal to the end, to be a constant source of hope to my family and friends, to live a life of decency, to share my heart and soul, to always say I'm sorry when I've harmed both friend and foe, to be proud of whom I've tried to be in this life I choose to live, to make the most of every day by giving all I have to give. To me, that's what it's for, to take what God has given me and make it so much more, to live a life that matters, to be someone of great worth, to love and be loved in return, and make my mark on earth.
what a powerful and beautiful poem. Thank you, Mary Jane. So, welcome everyone to Rewriting the Narrative, a new perspective on the stories we tell ourselves. We are so grateful you're here, whether you have come with a deep intention or just a quiet curiosity. This space is for you, a place to reflect, to release, and to try to begin rewriting the stories that shape your life. We all carry stories about who we are, what we're capable of, and how the world sees us. Some of these stories empower us, while others keep us stuck in patterns of doubt and limitation. But here's the truth: no story is permanent. The words we tell ourselves can change. And when we shift our inner narrative, we unlock new possibilities, greater self compassion, and a deeper sense of freedom. So, today we will explore the power of personal narratives, the ones we've been told, the ones we've told ourselves, and the ones we are ready to transform. And through conversation and guided meditation, we will practice softening self doubt, reframing limiting beliefs, and stepping into a kinder, more expansive way of seeing ourselves. But this story isn't just about you. Your story, your unique journey, has the power to inspire someone else. Maybe it's someone who shares a similar upbringing, values, or struggles. Maybe it's someone who needs to hear that change is possible. The lessons you've learned, the strength you've gained, and the perspective you've cultivated could be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Don't keep your story to yourself. Every time you rewrite an old narrative, you create space for someone else to do the same. Every time you choose self compassion over criticism, you show others that they too can be kind to themselves. Your healing, your growth, your courage, it all ripples outward in ways you may never fully see. So take a deep breath, let yourself settle into this space. You're here for a reason, and together we'll begin the powerful transformative work of rewriting the stories that no longer serve us so that we can live and inspire with greater truth, freedom, and love. So know that you are worthy, you are enough, your story matters, and let's begin. Mary Jane?
Yeah, I really love that. It's so true. There's so much power to the story. Um, and sharing an authentic story where people can relate and they can see themselves in you. They may not have had the exact same experience as you, but it can be an inspiration to them to realize, like it says, that change is possible, that there is a way forward. Because sometimes you can hear something, as has been said before, you can hear something, the same thing 100 times said. And sometimes it just takes that one person to share their story and to say it in a precise way that that's how you need to hear the story. That's how you need to be able to relate to it. So there is a definite power in the personal um, narratives, and even more reason why it's so important for us to do that inner work and to look at what the stories are that we tell ourselves and reframe them where necessary. Flip the script, as I like to say. Um, why is this happening for me and not to me? Um, because I always feel that there's a lesson to be learned, an opportunity to grow. So that's my perspective. So I love this topic.
Thank you, Mary Jane. And so do I. And I love this idea. And I've done this, I think, for a long time as part of this idea of reframing or coming and sort of, let's say, resolving in myself things that had happened was really this idea of what did I learn and what did I gain and how did it change me? Because I think many, many years ago, I realized that it was just like otherwise, what was at points suffering for? There, to me, there had to be this reason, and the reason that I could come up with was, or the reason that resonated was that I was supposed to learn something from that circumstance. And now when things happen and repeat themselves, I like, I guess I haven't learned yet. I guess I'm still like learning, as we all are. That's what life is. But I think that at points when it seems like same scenarios are repeating themselves, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I haven't really, I haven't taken everything that I need to gain from that situation. And so I love this idea of the stories we tell ourselves. And that also hits on what we believe about ourselves, like what we've been told and what we've kind of owned or taken into our lives. And then all of a sudden we realize that, how we were molded or what happened, who said what to us at what age, and how that made us feel and how we incorporate those dialogues or that verbiage into the way we are and the way we navigate the world.
That's so true, Jed. I was just thinking it's one of my passions is reconnecting people to their creativity. Um, realizing that creativity can mean many, many things. But the way I think of it is it's like reconnecting to that creativity of when you were a little child, the one that wasn't afraid to try new things. And it didn't matter what it looked like or what it was, you just to have that experience. So I just it's all about the reframing because as adults, we start or as we grow, we start taking on all of the narratives that other people bring into our lives of shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't. Um, and for me, it's a passion to reconnect people, say, why not? That's
Hmm.
the switch in the narrative. So I love that. Yeah.
And I love what you're saying because as a, in my world, of being a yoga teacher for a lot of, my week, it's always interesting to me when people say, well, I'm not flexible or, they kind of label themselves by an injury. And I've done that too, where you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that because I have back issues. Like we kind of, and not to say we've got to be careful, but there's always ways to work within whatever we have. I mean, that's what I love to do is being creative and getting people sort of to a place where each person can experience something in a way that is fit for them. And yes, are you like anybody else? No. I used to take workshops with a guy named Brian Kest, who was a big power yoga guy. And literally, he would yell at you if you looked at somebody else's mat. He was like, it's not about them, this is about you. Like, don't judge yourself and don't like, because you get in your ego and you're like, well, they can do this. Like, why can't I do this? And then all of a sudden, you're like getting down on yourself, and that's not the purpose at all. So, yeah, beautiful. Seamus?
Yeah, thanks, Jan. And as usual, thanks for the lovely poem as well. And the conversation to just kick us off. Yeah, there was just a couple of words coming to mind. Like and this goes back, Jan, to that lovely book you recommended me that I'm making my way through at the moment from Jack Hornfield as well. The Wise Heart. Um, it's so reinforcing, and this conversation is kind of really sits into that topic that Jack speaks about as well in that book, which is about like that word, the permanent, compassionate observer that we all have within ourselves. And I think before we can rewire, I think it's about noticing and the self-awareness and connecting and operating from the compassionate, permanent observer that is ourselves versus the transient, highly volatile critic that we portray because we're so insecure around how we're showing up, just exactly as you described there, around looking at others and how they're performing in the yoga mat. And we're not really allowing ourselves to really operate just what feels right from us. So I think that the thing that's coming to mind is that, yeah, like I remember going back to my school days, 4, 5, 6 years of age, and being told, we all are unique. We're all beautiful, unique beings. And these are words, but I think where the penny drops is when you convert those words into experience. And then you finally just don't say the words, but you experience what it feels like to connect and be that compassionate observer from your inside out. And I think that is the difference. And that's the power of the inner work, I guess, and the topics that we talk about at this time every week. It's opening that door to allow the words to nurture that pathway to, now the words are beginning to land in a way that are no longer just words. They're actually an opening to an experience. And yeah, that's kind of what's coming up about today's topic. And, removing another layer and another layer of words turning into a real penny dropping experience, I guess. And that's why I love these conversations. So thanks so much for creating this space.
Oh, thank you, Seamus. And one of the things you said that really is that this idea, and Mary Jane mentioned it too, is that languaging, is that, compassionate observer. And I've been in that space for, probably, for a lot, but noticeably kind of intentionally going into that awareness space of observing and very conscious and aware of the things I say to myself and how do I feel over the past number of months, and this idea of like noticing when you use words like I can't. We talked about this last week, or no, no one, or nothing, or versus I can't yet, or I'm not able to right now. I'm learning, versus, you know, I can't do that, or I am not good at that. We all have our gifts, but I think that he's using those extreme words of nothing, nothing ever works out. Or, I am not. And I think those beliefs, sorry, those belief systems around those kind of words where, like Mary Jane said, I'm not creative or I'm not smart. Because I think that we'll always find examples in the world of people who are, better at something than we are. I mean, you know, but that doesn't mean we're not something. You know, I was listening to a podcast and the woman was talking about being in a scenario where she worked really hard to um, to excel and to move forward in her job, and all of a sudden she became a manager, and she said all of a sudden for like 5 seconds she felt really good about herself. And then all of a sudden she was hanging out with all these other managers. And so all of a sudden she felt like, oh my gosh, like all of a sudden she was comparing herself to them. And it was like, when she went through that whole like insecurity where like, did she really belong, and the whole imposter syndrome thing. And it was really that all of a sudden she was around people who might have been, more her peers at the moment as far as level went. And she wasn't hanging out with the people who like she used to be with because she had been promoted. And so all of a sudden that insecurity and the things that she started to say to herself because she felt like she had kind of moved up too quickly and she wasn't really competent to do what she was doing, and all the things that all of a sudden show up when we're thrown in circumstances like that. And it's constant because all of a sudden we move along somewhere and all of a sudden we get promoted, or we're surrounded by people who maybe, know more about a topic than we do or whatever. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, like, do I really belong here? And what do I say to myself? So, Divine,
Hello, my loves. Can everybody hear me?
yes, we can hear your
Okay.
beautiful voice.
Thank you. Thank you. Listening to you guys speak this morning has been, uh, I feel better. I had a beautiful dream last night, a different vision or a different version of myself, and I just said a prayer like, how am I going to get here? You know? And I think that when it comes to rewiring the patterns, for me, it's like rewiring the patterns that create the stories, whatever those patterns are. And a lot of times right now, it has been patterns that I have been repeating since, the beginning of time, right? And, focusing on my health and my wellness and, making sure that my hormones are in balance. It seems like it's a full-time job rewiring those patterns every single day. And last night, I felt like I was just over it. I said, you know what? I feel like a robot. This is too much work, right? Telling myself all these things, And in that moment, I had to honor myself and my body because I'm learning to understand my energy and my flow a bit better. And I had to understand and accept that, hey, you're tired right now. You are over it. And that is okay. And I also have to accept the people that live with me, like my children, right? A lot of times they're not going to ask me, do I need help? Right? I'm talking about acts of service. I'm talking about hands-on help, right, around the home, or, maybe giving mama a massage or rubbing that kink out of my neck, whatever it may be, you know? And I'm like, okay, I have to ask them to help me since they're not able to offer the help, right? Because sometimes people offer, sometimes we have to ask for what we want. So I've been doing that. I've been learning that I can rewire that story of always doing it all on my own, right? That independent, strong woman, those labels, those things that we tell ourselves, whether they come from society or just the epigenetics of repeating certain patterns and rewiring those things. And my body is learning how to be acceptance of who I am and where I am right now, but at the same time, that harmony, that balance of rewiring the patterns in my daily life and daily routines are so important for me because if I want to create a better, I want to say, I'm going to use the word better for now, right? Because I try to be careful when I'm speaking certain words, but also I like to flow in conversation, right? There's nothing script, you know? And I want to create a better lifestyle where I feel better. You know what I'm saying? And every day I can show up as my best. So focusing on and prioritizing myself is so important to me, but rewiring the patterns and creating the new stories, the new timelines, it does seem like it's you know, a it's a job, it's work, and it's okay to be tired. It's okay to be over it sometimes. It's okay to express how we feel because I'm very expressive and I'm like Mary Jan too. I like to be in my creative energy and expressing my emotions, expressing how I feel and letting them out, right? Shaking them out. We talked about shaking energy out and expressing ourselves. So I think it's important to do that as well and, have the support that we need, right? And ask people, what kind of support do you need? What kind of help do you need? And love and light is beautiful, but what kind of support do you need? Like my daughter's birthday was yesterday. And I said, what do you want for your birthday? Because normally I just get her whatever I felt led to give her, and she's happy with it, right? But this year I said, what do you want or what do you need for your birthday this year? So I'm really trying to also become who I would like others to be for me as well. So I'll land it there, love. Thank you.
Thank you, Divine. That was beautiful. And I love that. Like, be calm, you know, and basically be who you want others to be. Because I think everybody, especially those we live with, tend to mirror us. And, especially I think with children, they learn from us. So, you're setting that example for them. And I was there with you yesterday, Divine. I was really tired. And I've been doing all this work. And I was kind of like, I think I'm done for today. I'm done. I just needed to rest. And I think that sometimes it is work, and people don't like that word work, but I think when you're doing a lot of this deep work, it is work. Well, that attention, it requires focus and it requires attention. So it is somewhat like, in some ways, I want to say demanding, because all of a sudden you're like, being in that state of awareness all the time is, can be tiring. And I can relate to that because I've been in that state of awareness. I do have to say, I've gotten to the point now where when I notice certain things that are repeating and repeating them, I actually laugh because I'm kind of like, oh, I can't believe I'm here again. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Like it's coming up again? Like you're in that place? And then actually not for everything, but for some things, it's actually kind of funny because like part of me is I think almost shocked or I can't believe that I'm in the same place again or then the same record is playing in my head. And I'm like, and not to let it stop you, but it's so funny that, yeah, you have laughing spells daily as well. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. It's like if somebody was here, they would really like, and that's, I think, why sitcoms were created personally for that reason. Seamus.
Yeah, I look at yeah, like just on that whole point, like of I think as you were describing, Divine as well. Thanks for that. Your experiences, the idea of identities, the identities we create limit our ability, or they're transient in nature. Like we're the mother, we're the like we're the mother, we're the son, we're the daughter, we're the father, we're the manager, we're this, that, and the other, and we're in permanent transition from one identity to another, and it can be really, really tiring. Like, and I think going back to the theme of being tired, like when you're operating and exchanging and moving and shifting between these identities all the time, that's really, really tiring. But as you were speaking, I was thinking about it's really effortless though when you allow yourself to realize, become the observer. We talked about earlier that when you're operating from the foundation of that compassionate observer from within and noticing that that's a very natural process to be the dad or be the mother or be the son or be the daughter, be the manager or whatever, from that secure foundation, that there's no disconnect between the identity you create and your have the ability to be able to seamlessly let go. And again, when I think of let go, I think of letting go of trauma from years ago. But the more I think about this and reading recently, it's actually we can let go of the role we're currently playing, let go, move on, let go, move on, let go, move on to the new circumstance almost effortlessly because we're operating with a close connection to that compassionate observer. And we're all, so from being tired and shifting these roles through that disconnection from the foundation, when we have that solid foundation and are able to operate those identities and those roles, which we need to do in our external everyday life, I think that can be a game changer in terms of, okay, now this actually just feels much better because I'm able to actually show up for other people from the foundation of really, really being my own best, most compassionate observer and showing up for myself as well and achieving that blend that only each of us can experience and achieve and know when it's right, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of what was coming back again against the tiredness versus how effortless this can become when we allow ourselves to observe and notice and act in a way that maybe we didn't act before.
Well, thank you, Seamus. One of the things you said resonated, it kind of struck a chord with me because it was one thing that was coming up for me this week. And I think also it's less exhausting when you actually allow yourself to whatever it is, the experience. I think we've spoken about before is this whole idea of living behind a mask or portraying something or not being authentic or being honest in a situation is really exhausting. And that also comes from those different roles we play. Like we feel like we can't say anything, or we feel that um, we are portrayed. Mary Jane and I were talking about this before everyone got on. And it was just this example of a scenario. This woman was talking about the fact that when she was dating her husband, like her now husband, and they first decided they were going to move in together. And all of a sudden, she woke up in a panic one day because she thought, oh my gosh, he's going to see me how, like, without any makeup on. And he's going to see that I eat like food out of the refrigerator without like directly, or drink out of the bottle without getting a glass. And all of a sudden, it's like you're out there and the person is going to see you for who, like, and that's scary because we've kind of put on this mask. And I think when we have strong emotions or certain things that we're confronted with, we feel like we can't share them often, and that is truly exhausting. Divine? Oh, Mary Jane, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's true. It can feel very exhausting because either scenario when you have things and you feel like you have to keep it inside because nobody else is going to understand where you're coming from or the challenges that you're facing. It's exhausting that way because you're just like in constant energy inside. And then, yeah, and then sometimes even expressing it can also be um, exhausting. but there's definitely more release in sharing your story and sharing something that other people might be able to relate to and realize that they too can, take the challenges they're facing and realizing that they're really contributing to their growth and in the process of moving forward. So, Divine, what say you?
Ooh, thank you. Thank you. There's so much that's coming through this conversation. I'm like, man, I wish, one day we're going to be on here for a while getting all this out. But listen, I've been cussing the universe out lately. Okay. And at the same time, I've been also tuning more into my intuition and asking for help. And I think that is so important for us to have that harmonious balance, and learning my own natural state of being. How many of us know our natural state of being? Because a lot of us are operating on a systematic program. And if I want to be more specific, I will say that a lot of women still operate on a systematic patriarchy program. And me getting back into my matriarch and healing that matriarch bloodline and DNA, right, within myself, I'm learning that that harmonious balance that I need to operate in now is my natural state of being. Who are you? How is your energy built? I am more sensitive to energy and vibration. And I was watching a video last night, and this is going to get a little bit of spicy here, okay? But I'm going to keep it clean for the recording. I was watching a video last night, and this guy was speaking that, women are more magnetic, which I already knew this, and men are more electric. But at the same time, we both have those harmonious balance of electric being more in the mind and magnetic being more in the body and in the heart space. But to be honest with myself, I am more magnetic in the body, in the heart, and I attract and feel everything. I'm sensitive. My energy is more sacred and sensitive, and I can feel like when people come into my atmosphere, especially if you're like, they say, stay 6 feet apart, right? COVID, stay 6 feet apart because our aura field, our energy field is about 6 feet and it can extend longer or bigger than that, depending on your connection and knowing that you are an energetic field. And me being magnetized as a woman, I can feel energies that come towards me. Now, this is the example, right? When you are making love with your partner, okay, man and woman, okay, guys, just be with me for this example really quick, and I'm gonna land it. When you are making love with your partner, the male is more energetic, right? The seed, the energetic, and the female is more the receptor, which is more magnetic. She receives the seed, the energy, and usually, a lot of times, right? If we were to do a study on this, right? They have done a study on this, is that after making love, quote unquote, after making love, the woman is more energized. She's okay, right? She's happy. She can stay up a little longer, but the man seems to crash out and ready to eat something or ready to go to sleep, ready to, I'm exhausted, right? Because they gave their energy and the woman took it and received the energy where she's not exhausted yet. She's not done. She's still up, right? So this is a prime example. Even with science, they prove the electric charge and the magnetic charge. And honestly, the more I get to know myself, I am more magnetic. I am more in my feminine nature. And my body makeup has been proving that to me. And the more that I stay in that dominant of overworking, overdoing it, trying to overanalyze everything that's going on in my home, like rearranging this needs to go here, this needs to go there, da 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 da, right? Just trying to overmanage things. The more that I find that my hormones and my body becomes out of balance and depleted. So I want to say that we got to know ourselves and we got to operate in our natural state, and human design and all of these tools that really help you understand that as well is also important. But embodying this and accepting it That is the key. So thank you for allowing me to share love, and I'll end it there.
Thank you, Divine. And I think it is. It's so like obviously you are taking the time to know that about yourself, to learn that about yourself. And, in the beginning, we spoke about the stories and where we got those stories. And I think that often people don't take the time to know themselves, you know, culturally, whatever it was, economically, culturally, you know, familial. There were these roles or these kind of roles we were supposed to play or we were expected to play. And not often do people go out and question those scenarios and test them out. I think that, um, gender wise, our society is, for a long time was very, very clear as to the roles that we were supposed to play and how we were supposed to navigate the world and what was acceptable, quote unquote, and what wasn't acceptable. And I think learning that for yourself is really what it's all about, is learning. And either way, you might be, you know, very comfortable in that sort of very analytical, very thought-provoking world. And then you might not be. That might not be who, maybe you are much more magnetic versus electric, and just knowing that about yourself. Austin?
Thank you, Jan. Wow, what a fruitful conversation. It's really hitting home in a lot of ways, and very synchronistically also. So I want to tag on a couple things I heard earlier, and it'll fit in greatly here. One of the things that I've come to actually enjoy doing, it's a you can consider it a modality. It's called awareness documentation, and it's all about learning about yourself, putting your awareness out there. And essentially what you do is you talk to yourself in a camera, and then you play it back and you write down the introspection aspects of it. And you really get to learn a lot about yourself and, you know, what is, well, that's just hitting the surface, to be honest, folks. Because when you are in like a flow state, which I think we can all agree is an optimal state to be in, contributing our value in our unique ways. But when you're talking to yourself, it almost gives you the best opportunity to um, accept yourself for who you are. Like one of these another thing that I'm working on creating, because I'm very passionate about it, is about owning your voice. And I think this literally stemmed from the awareness documentation that I was doing. Um, and then just one other thing that's coming to mind right now is the other day, it was actually 2 days ago, I was really tired because I've been high energy doing a lot of inspired work, and I had a scheduled meeting with a wonderful lady, and I was asleep. I knew I needed to sleep, and I felt really bad. And for a while, I was beating myself up over it and judging myself. And when I got into because we ended up rescheduling the call, and when I got into the call, it hit me, and I realized, and I expressed this to her, and I said, and it's relevant to this conversation. I said to her, for a while, I was kind of guilt tripping myself over this, but had I not been able to been aware and accept that I needed that time to rest, the conversation at the end of the conversation would not have been as fruitful. And so we agreed that it was the universe's way of showing ourselves what we need in that moment. So everyone who, brought in the becoming aware and listening to yourself, just such a fruitful conversation we're having here. So thank you, Mary and Jen. That's all.
I love the perspective, Austin. It's so true. Yeah, it's amazing how we think that there's so many times where we need to override what our our needs are. So the fact that you took that time and said, "Hey, I need to rest," is awesome. I mean, that's part of, what I always say is about, kindness, empathy, and compassion, and starting with self first. Because that's how you fill others' cups, by being able to be more expansive yourself. Just moving forward with that. And when you were talking about what you were doing with like Cam, reminded me of when I was going through a program, and they had us doing mirror work, and I know Jan and I have incorporated part of this into some of our workshops or whatever. And it was so interesting because, we look at ourselves at a cursory level in the mirror normally, but to do mirror work, and you have to actually look yourself in the eyes and speak to yourself and say things like, "I love you," or "I see you," or, it's it's a difficult thing to do sometimes, because you start to, especially when you look yourself in the eye and you say these things, you suddenly start to see beyond that surface level. You start to see all of the emotion and the various things that might be lying there. And sometimes it's, as Jan and I have talked with, is the self-talk, the thing of saying, "Oh, look at me, my hair is awful." Look, that's the surface stuff we look at. But still, those are part of the story, when we look at ourselves so intently, or with intention. It's quite a different experience, and not always an easy one, right, Jan?
Absolutely. Recording, because I've done affirmations, or record myself and then play them back to myself. I've done that during meditation, so that guided meditation, but I'm the one guiding, and I just listen to it. Very different listening to yourself versus even just hearing it in your head, or hearing it when you speak out loud. There's something about the playback which is really powerful. And I've done this for a number of times through the years. And I really find it very valuable. And so I highly recommend it to people. If you've never done it, actually record yourself like saying something and then play it back to yourself, because there is this element of compassion and understanding that happens on a deeper level than when you're just talking. And one of the things that I thought about was, this whole idea of talk and what we say. And so I had a circumstance on Wednesday, I think it was on Wednesday, the days all run together. Sorry, it was Wednesday night. I gave a class with a friend of mine, and I wasn't what I would call on. Like, I don't know that it was my best class. It was a night. I'm not a night person. And I started to go through that overly critical place in my head of, like, I should have done this or I should have said that. And then I kind of just put it to the side. And we've added in a series of classes. So this is like a new schedule for me. And I just thought to myself, well, you did it. It's all new. You added in 3 or 4 classes this month. That's a lot. To celebrate that and and move on. And so I didn't let myself go down that whole like spiral of over analyzing and overly ruminating what had happened, and to just put it aside as is. I did it. And I think we also have to be careful. Like, we have to honor where we're at. So, and if we do show up, then kind of have a little bit of compassion for ourselves in that moment, that maybe, wasn't my best presentation. I was tired, or just knowing our own habits, that, of, and things like that, and knowing our own tendencies for that self dialogue, like what we tend to say to ourselves. And can we almost autocorrect, right? Can we switch the GPS so we navigate somewhere else, so that we don't go down the same paths we tend to go down, and don't use the same dialogue with ourselves. We tend to, the words that we don't use the same words that we tend to say to ourselves.
It's so true. I put in the chat, it's like I'm just getting used to hearing my voice on recording, because I would have done in my past I would have done everything possible to be avoid being the one speaking, or sharing my voice in that way, or just just uh just letting go of that thing, and being less critical of myself, and realize that it's okay, this is who I am, and that's who I'm meant to be. So it's good.
It is good. And it's the different things that we, I mean, in the different circumstances about speaking up, so recently, around my family, especially in more public kind of settings, part of it is a religious thing that women don't speak, in certain circumstances. So I don't really tend to do much public speaking in that scenario, for multiple reasons. Some of it is a religious thing, and some of it is just, probably stories, previous stories. And it was my father's memorial service, celebration of his passing 50 years. And so I read a poem I wrote, and that took like, that was a scenario where I was just like, for the first time. I mean, I've never spoken at anything, either because I wasn't asked or because I kind of knew they didn't want me to. And this time I was just like, okay, well, this is really for me and my dad, not for anybody else. And I'm going to do it. And so I spoke. And so, whereas I'm very used to speaking in this, in some of, in these rooms, or when I teach, I speak all the time. And I'm actually quite wise sometimes, which shocks me. Have you ever had that happen where you say something and you're like, wow, that was really like, that sounded really good, But yeah, and in a scenario sometimes with those people who have known us since, like we talked about, who've known us our whole lives, some of those situations can sometimes feel really uncomfortable, or just very, very different. Like, not, yeah, uncomfortable or awkward. Not that they're bad. We're just so unfamiliar and not like used to playing that role or being in that situation that we feel awkward. It's strange. Divine?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, Jan, that it's been 5 years since my father's passing, or transition is what I like to call it. And it was yesterday on my daughter's birthday. So every year around March 27th, there's always a sign that is shown to me. And I wrote him a letter yesterday. And when I wrote this letter, I just started crying in gratitude, right? And I think it's so important to acknowledge the feelings and then acknowledge the gratitude and the joy behind those emotions, and that we don't express as much joy and gratitude emotions as much as we, feel the other ones, right? Of anger, of sadness. But I just wanted to tell you that I wrote him a letter yesterday on paper, as much as I could write, right? Because you already know I have this carpal tunnel, but it's healing. It's healing. But I wrote him a letter yesterday, and I thought about you and the connection with your dad as well, and it was a beautiful moment. Just wanted to share that, and I landed there.
Oh, thank you so much, Divine. And as we were talking about recording, you might want to record that letter to your dad. So if you're having trouble writing right now, is have it be in your voice. I know that I talk to my dad all the time. I mean, not in a like, his picture sits out on my counter. And I walk by him and I'll say, good morning, Dad. Not in a bad way, but it's just like he's there and he's with me, and I just love seeing his face and his smile, and so you might want to record yourself. I think that would be beautiful. No pressure, but just a thought. Al?
I will do. Thank you.
Wow, well, a splendid conversation here. So I want to chip in. We are celebrating the life of the spirits and the ancestors that gone. So it's very important that we know that they are in the lives and they're up there, taking care of us and overlooking us. And we still have our lives to go on. Whether it's the ups or the downs. So basically, whatever we have encountered in the past, which are in the sadness or desperation or whatever, we have to let go. But sometimes in our hearts, it's still keeping there. So that's why the heart is actually controlling our feelings and emotions. So, and it affects the other three chakra on the bottom, the root, the sacral, and the sacral and the stomach. plexus, So basically, this also controls our brain, So basically, it's important that, like what Divine was saying, the magnetic and electrical energy, the prana that's actually controlling our body system through our 7 chakras, It's so important that we have to have a very aligned, aligned within ourselves, so that we can continue on, whatever our daily activities, and so that we have to move on, whichever case, like we cannot dwell on the past, which are actually affecting us on our brain, our thoughts, our because it will affect our intentions too, because in our everyday life, there's so many thoughts passing through us, if we are always thinking of the negative, bad feelings, forever, we always have the difficult moments, that we are cannot continue on, whatever we want to do, So basically, we need to move on and look forward to the future, even though with our continuation of our legacy and whatever we want to do, So basically, we need to move on and push forward and continue motivate ourselves, like what we are saying, look into the mirror and tell ourselves that I'm abundant, I'm full of living, and there's always opportunities out there. There's a better way for us to excel, in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. One of the things that, took me a while to realize, but I think with this element of grief or loss, is to realize you can hold multiple emotions at once. And I think I felt it so deeply when those memories of, like, those really fond memories of my father or whoever else, I've had, other people in my life that have passed or transitioned. Uh, my grandmother, who I was very close to, so the other people or beings, pets, have passed, was to remember that I could be sad, but still remember them fondly. And I remember in the beginning, I think I avoided those fond memories because I didn't want to go into the sad and painful memories. It was kind of like, well, I'll remember my grandmother and a funny story. Then all of a sudden it makes me sad because I miss her. But I realized that that was okay, that I could hold both. And going into the like sadder emotions, I love what Pema Chodron says. Pema Chodron is a wonderful meditation teacher. And years ago, she said, just remember, it's not going to kill you. Like, you're not going to die. So I remember sitting there going to painful emotions, going, okay, I'm not going to die here. Like as I sat there, and it's not going to kill me. But I think that that took me a long time to kind of, I think I avoided for so many years because I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to be sad. I think, or, cry or whatever. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, that's okay. I don't want to forget that person. And, I don't want to like push out those memories either. So you just got to live, there's space for both.
It's so true. I love that Jan perspective about there's space for both. Because yeah, that's the human experience, right? We can be so many things all at once. And and but it's so important, and that's because we're like that. I mean, for me, this is just me. One of the best things for me when I'm in that process where I feel like I'm spinning round and round or jettisoning back and forth between the emotions, for me, um, journaling or just writing or poetry or whatever it happens to be, um, just just putting stuff down on paper. So I resonated, Divine, when you were saying about writing on paper. But it's true, there is value, as Austin was sharing earlier, to the power of the voice, and what a lovely voice Divine has. So it's just being able to share that and expressing that outward, and letting that out. It's good for our soul, and our expansion. So I love that. This has been a great conversation.
Absolutely. And I do think the voice is very powerful. And when we are, if we want to shift, is the just a sharing is to record, like, things we would like to say to ourselves. How often are we, as Seamus was speaking to about that, that compassionate space or that compassionate observer. Well, how often are we not that compassionate observer with ourselves? and maybe playing, or recording yourself and then playing it back when you are, to get yourself more familiar or more accustomed to hearing those kind and loving words to yourself in your own voice. And not that way, and in that way, maybe not expecting it from anybody else, right? Because then the need for anybody else to say them becomes less.
It's very true. Finding that love within yourself and expressing those words of positivity and affirmation to yourself, that's a very valuable tool to have for sure. And
Anybody else like, yeah, I was just say, would anybody else like to share, or should we move to the meditation?
I think we should move to the meditation. It's just funny. I was just going to ask the same question.
Well, I think
There you go.
Seamus is off mute.
I suppose
Seamus is-
just the final word, I suppose, is that, like, as just you were speaking, it's the experience of liberation that comes with that. So we take the pressure off ourselves of beating ourselves up, and we really see that this is only a transient kind of role we're playing, and we realize that kind of that converts like into, oh God, yeah, this is, I've been like so worried about what other people are thinking and playing these roles because I think I have to play them this way. And then when you take that pressure off yourself and just be compassionate and really see your true self and live and operate from that space, oh wow, like, there's so much pressure released then, and that's where that word liberation comes in. Oh God, you mean to say I can operate from here and I can do those roles and play those roles from this foundation? Like that for me is a game changer from personal experience, I guess.
And I love that, Seamus, because I think that, also you realize that, this whole idea of like, there are millions of people out there in the world, and not everyone in the world are you going to resonate with, and that's okay. That basically there are going to, whether, when you show up authentically, the people who are meant to be in your life and who gravitate like to, and I think of the word magnetic, that Divine used, the people who are drawn to you are going to be drawn to you in your authenticity and vulnerability and, messiness, how, in the complexities of being a human being. I love these conversations. So now I guess we will move into the meditation. So take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Again, inhale deeply, filling your lungs. And exhale, letting go of any tension. Allow your breath to settle into a natural, steady rhythm. Bring your awareness to your heart, the center of who you are. This is where your truth resides. Beyond the stories you've told yourself, beyond the words of others. As you breathe, bring to mind a story you've carried about yourself, one that has shaped how you see yourself and your place in the world. Perhaps it's a belief about your worth, your abilities, or your past. There is no judgment here. Simply notice the awareness. Where does this story live in your body? Does it feel heavy or light? Observe it with curiosity, as if you were reading a book. Now ask yourself, is this story still serving me? Does it uplift me or does it hold me back? With each exhale, imagine releasing the parts of the story that no longer align with who you are today. Let them dissolve like ink fading from a page. You are not bound by old narratives. You have the power to rewrite them. Now, with kindness, begin to craft a new story, one that honors your strength, your growth, and your resilience. In this story, there are words of encouragement that you would offer yourself. Use words that you would use when speaking to a dear friend. To imprint the ink of these words on the page of your new book, of your new story. Take a moment to repeat either silently or aloud these phrases. I am more than my past. I choose to see myself with love and possibility. I release old beliefs that no longer serve me. I embrace a new story, one that supports my growth, my joy, and my truth. Choose your book on the pages of your new story, and the light within you that is now on these pages is meant to be shared. Your story, your unique journey, has the power to inspire others. Picture someone who may need to hear your truth, someone who might be struggling just as you once did. And imagine your story reaching them, bringing hope and understanding and connection. Your words matter. Your story matters. Take a final deep breath in and exhale, grounding yourself in the new awareness. When you feel ready, gently wiggle your fingers and toes, bringing yourself back to the present. And when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes. You are the author of your life. You are the author of your story. You have a power to create the story that is within you, and have it be filled with love, possibility, and truth. So we are wishing you both and all of you out there a good week. We will be back again next week. Feel free to connect with us during the week and between these, conversations. Our next workshop is Sunday, April 27th, Mary Jane and I, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We would love to have you there. We still have packages available for our workshops, the 6 remaining workshops for the year, or you could do 4 of your choice. Have a great week. Be aware, be kind.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for being here, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day you've been given. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely. Have a good week.
Bye bye all. And
Bye-bye.
Seamus are attending your workshop tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern, right?
Yeah, wonderful. I'll look forward to seeing you then. And thanks, Jan. Thanks, Mary Jane. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay.